Hey everyone, it's Lulasai. I am here with a video where I'm not actually on camera myself. I'm actually sitting in my chair currently just because I'm going to start walking around and it's going to be, I tend to get out of breath when I'm, talking a lot and walking around a lot. So yeah, but this video is basically, I don't know what I'm titling it yet because I want to see where it goes. I'm just kind of doing it with no script. Um, I have one little segment planned out, but otherwise I'm just free balling it. So yeah, but the purpose of this video is to capture my first reactions and feelings about Sony announcing that uh, there will be no more PlayStation discs produced starting in January of 2028, which presumably means that the PlayStation 6 is not going to have discs whatsoever. Maybe it will, maybe they will sell an optional like disc drive like this PlayStation 5 Pro here, which by the way, this PlayStation 5 Pro never came with a disc drive. There was no option for a disc drive. You had to purchase it separately, and they're not even going to future-proof it for more than 4 years. So yeah, I'm just a little bit bothered by this announcement from them. It's extremely sad news. I actually didn't think I was going to get affected this badly, but I love video game collecting. I'm genuinely really passionate about it. So this is terrible news. Truly terrible news. Worst news I possibly could have gotten on Canada Day as well. So pretty sad, unfortunate turn of events. We're gonna talk about some silver lining, maybe some like, you know, we'll talk about the pros and the cons, okay? I know your first reaction would be there are no pros. Technically, there are some, especially for me on a personal level. It's not going to apply to everyone, but for me, I will talk about what the personal pros are. But yeah, so it's very sad. Yes, we still have one more year of getting discs, and I still will be buying them. I will be a lot more selective than I already was before, though, because there's basically no future for this hobby, as sad as that is to sound. So we're just basically going to have what we have currently, and luckily I've basically gotten everything that I already want. If some like super banger games release before January 2028, which I'm sure there will be a couple, I will definitely get those on disc if I can. But it's already happening. I mean, Grand Theft Auto 6 is already not going to have a disc, at least at launch. So it's already begun, really, and it's going to spill over into everything else. It's going to be movies. It's going to be everything. This really is the death of physical media. Anyways, let's just go ahead and show you. This is not a room tour video. I'm very ill prepared for this. The room is messy. It's unorganized. So this is not a room tour video whatsoever. But I will just quickly show you my physical media collection. As you can see, I have a very big wall. We have DVDs at the top, Blu-rays in 4K in the middle, and then all the video game stuff on the bottom. So for me, it's like, what's the point of buying a PlayStation 6 if it's not going to have a disc drive? You know, like what is actually the point? So unless like Bloodborne 2 comes out on launch for the PS6, I'm straight up, I think this will be the very first time I skip a console generation. I don't see any reason to get one personally. I'm not someone who's going to play Fortnite or anything like that. I want high quality, artistic single player games. That's all I'm interested in. So yeah, it just doesn't make sense. So my first reaction and feelings to this are, wow, gaming's kind of dying a little bit. Now, sure, the new generations, people younger than me, maybe they didn't grow up with discs or they don't care whatsoever. But if you're one of those people, you must see that this still affects you. This means that we're going to get even more live service slop that can be taken away from you anytime you want, or anytime they want. So everything you purchase is not actually yours. Another recent news story was that if you were part of like the Sony Pictures Core or whatever movie service that allowed you to buy movies digitally, even if you bought movies digitally, Sony just straight up delisted them and took them away without a refund. Now, I'm sorry, no disrespect to anyone watching this if you did, but I'm not stupid enough to buy digital movies. No offense again to anyone if you did, I don't blame you. But if I did, I would be really mad. I would be really upset because I guess I am stupid enough to buy games digitally. Ironically, we're looking at a digital game that I purchased right now. I have a reason for that one, but yeah, in general, I just think digital is really, really scary territory. You really don't own anything anymore. And if we go back to movies for a second, so can you imagine if, let's go over here. Can you imagine if you had to watch the Star Wars, like every single time you wanted to watch the Star Wars original trilogy in your lifetime? Can you imagine having to resubscribe to Disney Plus to do it? That's insane. I don't even want to think about that. That's so crazy. That's why ownership is important. And even if you don't personally care about owning stuff, or you don't want to have the the burden of having a ton of stuff on your wall, which again would make perfect sense if you're someone who wants to declutter and keep everything online. That makes sense. But there's still the risk that it's just going to get taken away from you whenever you want. I mean, even some of these games, actually, I got rid of the ones that don't work, but I used to have some games in here which don't work because even the PS3 generation had discs where the games were live service and, you know, you just couldn't play them anymore. So, yeah. Anyways, that's the first part of this rant. So I'm not happy about it. I don't think it's the right decision. However, yes, I did expect this. I'm not surprised by it. The part that offends me and that surprises me is how soon it was, though. We're not even done with the PS5 yet. I fully expected the PS6 to come out and be digital only, and I wasn't gonna cry about it. It's a changing of an era, but it's nothing unexpected, right? But for them to cut off the PS5 mid-generation is like from discs is kind of crazy because you already got me to purchase this luxury console with an additional not included disc drive, and then you're going to stop production before it's even over. Plus the PS6 is most likely going to release later than the standard console lifespan due to the the whole AI components crisis thing. So it's just crazy. It doesn't feel right to me at all. It feels too soon. I was hoping we could maybe get like more than just like I would have expected maybe 2030. Maybe that could be the time, but we're gonna lose discs at the start of 2028. It just feels too soon. I'm not ready for it. I'm absolutely coping. I'm really sad about it, and I'm not gonna pretend otherwise. So yeah, I also want to show the that this isn't necessarily a super new thing. So we go back to the PlayStation 1 here. You have Toy Story 2 Black Label. That just means it's black on the left here. This is when, this is like the first CD video game console, right? I'm sorry, I wasn't born yet when this came out, but so you got this beautiful artwork, and the actual cover of it is the manual itself as well. So if you pull this out, it has no cover, but you can read through the manual. This actually isn't new though. If you compare this to Ridge Racer Greatest Hits, which is this green label on the side here, Greatest Hits meant that the game sold a certain amount of copies and it was eligible for this program for basically like a second chance at retail to entice customers who didn't buy it before. So they were already doing cost-cutting measures. Not all of them, but most of the PlayStation 1 Greatest Hits games, they stripped the ink from the disc. So you went from these beautiful full-color discs to just straight up, generic discs. All of the discs look the same now. So yes, Sony is not new to cutting costs at all, is my point. You have the Nintendo DS era, which was just absolutely stacked. You've got like 5 or 6 different paperwork manuals and everything in there. Same with the PSP, especially Rockstar Games. It's funny because Rockstar Games used to be one of the best companies at making purchases worth it and including extras. You've got the map here, then you've got the manual behind it. And now Rockstar is actually one of the players who is deciding that this is over with Grand Theft Auto 6 not having a disc. I'm sure if Rockstar really pushed for Grand Theft Auto 7, let's say, to have a disc, then they could make that happen just because of how influential they are, but they don't want to. So that's sad. And you have the PS3 era, Fallout 3 Game of the Year here, Black Label. This one had 2 manuals because if you were in a bilingual area, you would get 2 different versions. So that's really nice. And then here's actually a bad example. This is where this is the beginning of the end right here. Although really the Ridge Racer was the beginning of the end pretty early on, but this is the true beginning of the end here. So PS3 Greatest Hits. I put these in here. These were not in here when I opened this. So I actually got this copy factory sealed, and I believe it came like this. It might have come with this. I don't remember. It's possible it did come with this, but regardless, this is nothing. I don't care about this. So it might as well have just come like this. Then you've got the 3DS era, Pokemon Moon, which now we went from the stacked DS case to now it just says viewing the game manual, and it tells you how to do it with the system software. Yeah, pretty sad. Then you've got Resistance, or PS Vita rather. PS Vita usually has nothing, but if it does have something, it's usually an online pass activation code. This was another beginning of the end telltale sign, because this online pass activation code, they did this so that people could not share the game with their friends or resell it. It would have less value because they wouldn't be able to access the multiplayer. Now, really, in hindsight, PS Vita, nobody really cared about multiplayer that much. Now, I wasn't really an early adopter of this console, but I'm assuming people didn't care about online that much for PS Vita. Why would you? Ridiculous features like the 3G. Again, why would anyone put 3G on their Vita? But my point is that we're going to these empty boxes, or if it isn't empty, then it's just a middle finger. Online pass activation codes are basically just a middle finger to you to make sure that you can't actually play the full version of the game unless you bought it factory sealed. Now we move on to PS4, and this is more current gen, right? This is what, maybe if you're younger than me, you're still gonna recognize this stuff. So I want to remind you what you're losing. Here's Dark Souls 3 for PS4 Day 1 Edition. Now, most PS4 games are gonna have nothing, but occasionally they will have something, especially the earlier release ones. I'm trying to get this slip cover off. So not only do I really like these slip covers because this helps protect it from dust, so your game it feels crisp once you take it out all these years later. But look at all this stuff you got. You got a little Prima guide, I believe. Might have been a manual. I don't feel like taking it out right now. And you got the soundtrack disc as well, which I've actually unironically played before. So yeah, I mean, this is going to affect music too. I haven't even talked about music, but it's just crazy that, so even if you don't personally care about this, are you really willing to give all of this up? You get rid of all this experience, the ability to resell a game if you're done with it or don't want it anymore, just so you can pay the exact same price, if not more, for a digital license that can be taken away from you at any time. It's absolutely insane. And then this is where we are currently, Resident Evil Requiem. These have no manual. And you know what? I have accepted this, you know? It's nice if they have some like reverse cover art stuff to see on the inside, but overall, what do you expect, right? They don't want to print manuals anymore. It's kind of fair enough, because you could argue it's a waste of paper, and you could also argue that nobody needs a guide anymore because everything is available online if you need help for a game. So I'm ready to accept this. Like, this is the format that I can accept and live with. But no, we are going away with this forever, and now when you buy something, it's just going to be a little slip. It's going to be a little code, if you're lucky. Actually, if you're lucky, it's going to be a code. It might just be a code on your receipt or something for your games, and you're not going to own it, and they can take it away anytime they want. Because that's the thing, maybe not the more modern stuff like that, especially not Xbox One X. I mean, I don't trust that console's permanent longevity. But if you go back to like PS3, this, for example, this is mine. I own this forever. Nobody can do anything about it. If I have a PS3 console 30 years from now and I put the disc in, it's going to work. The full game's going to be there. If I put... Now, I'm actually not too sure about this one, but if I put this one in the PS5, it might have to download an online update or something. But even if that's the case, at least I can sell it. It's still a physical, tangible thing that has value inherently. You can trade up for the next console, whatever. But yeah, now we're just going to nothing. This is the next stage right here. This is nothing. All right, the last thing I want to talk about in this video is the pros and cons, okay? So the cons, we've discussed everything already. So now actually let's talk about the pros. And yes, there is actually some pros, believe it or not. So some pros. First of all, games like this should not be physical at all, in my opinion. Games like this, Marathon, Arc Raiders, they don't need to be physical. You can see right there at the bottom it says Internet and PlayStation Plus required for online multiplayer. But this game is only online, so that just means at all times. So this one, as much as, I mean, I still like collecting stuff. This one actually, I forgot, came with like a little card thing. But in general, okay, maybe this game we can give a pass because they did include a little card in there and stuff. But these type of games, these online only ones, like Drive Club, for example, they should not have I don't, well, not that they shouldn't have them, but I don't think they need physical prints. So if the industry wanted to go away from making physical prints for these, I would not be complaining in the slightest. So another kind of, I guess that wasn't a pro, but just something to talk about. But here's a pro for me. This is something that's very specific for me that's not going to apply for everyone. If I were to get a PlayStation 6, at least, I wouldn't have to deal with the headache of whether I want a PS4 or PS5 version anymore. Usually the answer is almost always PS4. If a game is on both PS4 and PS5, you always want the PS4 version, or at least I do. The reason is because that bottom thing right there, PS5 upgrade available, that means that you can either upgrade for free or for a small fee. And it is usually a pretty small fee. And the reason this matters is for someone with severe OCD like me, I have to make this choice every single time I get a game because the PS4 version has 2 versions of the game on it, and it usually has more value because of that. And it gives you 2 trophy lists. So if you're into trophy hunting, you can get the same game twice. Sometimes it's auto pop. Sometimes you just get a good excuse to play through your favorite games a second time. But I'm glad that I don't have to deal with this anymore. Like very recently, or pretty recently, my friend bought me Call of Duty Black Ops 7 as a gift, and he got the PS5 physical print. But I already had, like, I was already trophy hunting and platinuming a lot of the PS4 versions of Call of Duties. So, and those games are usually pretty good for transferring your progress. So it's like, I didn't want to be like unthankful to him, but it is kind of putting me in a tough position as a collector and a trophy hunter because the PS5 version of Black Ops 7 is worthless. Like, well, not literally worthless, but to me personally as a gamer and a collector, it is worthless because it's the wrong version. I would rather have the PS4 version, or I would rather have the digital version at that point because the digital version has them both. So there are certain games that are completely pointless to have on PS5 physically, and at least I don't have to deal with that anymore. I don't have to make that decision every single time I buy a new game. It's less of a problem now because the games that are coming out are usually next gen only, right? But the problem was early to mid life cycle of this console, which we're in the mid cycle now. I guess we're technically in the latter half, but the console was so impossible to get for like the first 2 years of its life that I don't even know if we can really count those first 2 years of life. But yeah, it's just, so I guess the one positive thing is that I won't have to deal with the headache and the OCD nature of deciding whether I want a PS4 version or a PS5 version. Again, these are not even questions because this one only has PS4 version. This one only has PS5 version. This one only has PS5 version. But this one and a lot of the other big flagship titles like Horizon, Forbidden West, and God of War Ragnarok, these all have PS4 and PS5 versions, and the PS5 versions are instantly pointless, and in fact, even worse than being pointless, they're imperfections in my collection. So, yeah, are there any other pros? Not really. Not really. That is actually basically it, and that's a big one for me personally, but it's still very depressing and not worth it. So I would rather deal with the headache of that, especially if it means the industry can go in a different direction. So this is a very sad day. Thanks so much for watching this video. I'll probably do more content similar to this topic, especially while I am kind of riled up. And I mean, everyone's riled up. Everyone who watched that announcement is quite riled up. So yeah, very, very sad news. Sony, they also announced that they're closing the PS Vita and the PS3 store in the same day, on the same day. So they're just trying to rip the Band-Aid off. Again, these are all inevitable things, but it's too early. It's not the right time. And really, it's kind of hysterical if you think about it. Again, so they've announced the closure of the PS3 and PS Vita digital stores. You know what that means, right? So if a digital store is only going to stay up for 2 generations, so PS3 is getting closed now and PS5 generation is not over yet. That means if you get here's what this means, okay? The fact that this disk drive requires it requires a digital online activation for it to be functional. That is concerning. It possibly means that when the PlayStation 7 or 8 comes out, this disk drive might not be activatable anymore. I'm sure it'll currently work as it is, but if you were to try and sell your console or sell your disk drive to someone else and they tried to activate it, it might be completely useless. We don't know what's going to happen yet. So yeah, that's crazy. And the other crazy thing is they're actually trying to push digital only consoles on us while also knowingly shutting down those very same stores. So how are you going to expect me to buy and be happy with a PS6 if you could potentially close down the PS6 store when the PS8 or 9 comes out? That would literally turn into a brick, minus the fact that I would hypothetically have current things installed on it still. It's just wild. Really, the best takeaway from this video is that I think the PS4 is now officially the best generation. No contest. I love the PS5, don't get me wrong, it's obviously super convenient and awesome and great performance, but yeah, even as someone who is PS5 Pro owner with the disc drive, I have like the ultimate luxury right here in front of me. I unironically think that the PS4 is going to be the better console long term. So if you do not have a PS4 right now, I suggest you get one. And I'm specifically saying PS4. I don't trust the Xbox One because it is a always online console that forces you to update to be signed in. So I don't trust the Xbox One nearly as much as I trust the PS4. So that's the true takeaway of this video: is get yourself a PS4 while you still can, and get these games before their values rise, because they haven't risen yet. I've been paying close attention to my price charting collection value. The prices have not risen yet, but they probably will, especially after January 2028. So thank you so much for watching this video. Feel free to subscribe, and I will see you next time.